Hello and welcome to Matchday Live on LCFC Radio here at the Etihad Stadium ahead of the huge Premier League clash between Manchester City and the Foxes.
James Maddison outside of the right boot. Majestic. James Maddison.
Leicester come here full of confidence after reaching the semi-finals of the League Cup in midweek for the first time since the year 2000.
Jamie Vardy, here he comes. Right-footed, scores! And Leicester City march on in the League Cup.
It's Manchester City against Leicester City, and you can hear it all right here on Matchday Live.
And Didi heads in, saved by Kasper Schmeichel. Oh, what an absolute cracker from Harvey Barnes.
Your place for all the big moments. You're listening to Matchday Live on LCFC Radio.
And the team sheets have just landed with us. Brendan Rodgers made 3 changes in the midweek cup side against Everton. He makes 3 changes again this afternoon from that 11 as the Foxes return to Premier League action. Kəlģer Soyuncu and Gerry Taggart are restored to the starting 11, replacing Wes Morgan and Dennis Pratt. Meanwhile, Harvey Barnes is also in the starting 11. He is in for Mark Albrighton. Kasper Schmeichel, then the Leicester goalkeeper. A defence of Ricardo, Kəlģer Soyuncu, Johnny Evans and birthday boy Ben Chilwell. Wilfred and Didi sitting in front of the back four. Ahead of him, Jose Perez, Youri Tielemans, James Maddison and Harvey Barnes. Jamie Vardy, the Premier League's leading goal scorer, leading the Leicester attack. The substitutes, Danny Ward, Wes Morgan, James Justin, Dennis Pratt, Mark Albrighton, Damari Gray and Kelechi Iheanacho. Pep Guardiola made a host of changes for Manchester City's midweek League Cup win against Oxford, so it's easier to tell you 2 changes from the last Premier League 11. That was the 3-0 win last Sunday against Arsenal. Rodri and Phil Foden drop to the bench. Bernardo Silva comes in, as does former Leicester City man Riyad Mahrez, his first start for nearly a month. Sergio Aguero's been missing for almost a month. He is on the bench for Manchester City this evening. Edison, the goalkeeper, the Manchester City defence, Kyle Walker, Nicolas Otamendi, Fernandinho and Benjamin Mendy. 3 in midfield, Ilkay Gundogan, supported by Kevin De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva. Up front, Riyad Mahrez, Gabriel Jesus and Raheem Sterling. The City subs, Claudio Bravo, Alexander Zinchenko, Eric Garcia, João Cancelo, Rodri, Phil Foden and Sergio Aguero.
Thank you very much, John. Yes, hello and welcome to Etihad Stadium. There's a real buzz around this fixture this evening. A huge Premier League clash between Manchester City and, of course, Leicester City. And you can hear it all right here on Matchday Live. I'm Dan Bates, building up to Kickoff for the next hour alongside former Leicester defender Gerry Taggart. Good afternoon, Gerry.
Good afternoon, Dan. Yeah, and ex-Manchester City, of course. So, lovely to be here. Great setting. Fantastic stadium here at the Etihad, and just relishing the thought of a proper good old-fashioned Premier League game of football.
We'd have got there, Gerry, before Kickoff. 2 of your old clubs, of course, played against each other, but there's a real sense, isn't there, just around the ground, being outside, coming in the media room is absolutely packed, isn't it? It's massive, this game.
Oh, listen, every game's massive in the Premier League, but this is the champagne tie of the weekend, isn't it? Leicester in second, Manchester City the defending champions in third, I think it is, if memory serves me right. But Leicester in form going into this game. Manchester City's form's been a little bit iffy for them, you have to say, and it's going to be a great tie. Obviously Manchester City need to win tonight to close the gap. Leicester need not to lose. It's as simple as that. So everything to play for.
Is that the key? Is it? Do you think, Gerry? Is that how both managers will be?
No,
approaching the game?
Yeah, I think. Well, as far as Manchester City are concerned, it's pretty simple, isn't it? They have to win the game. If they lose the game, it's good night and God bless. If Leicester City lose the game, then they possibly could say, goodbye to the title this year, because yes, they've got a big game against Liverpool, but the gap, potentially, going into that game on Boxing Day could be unassailable for Liverpool. So that's why a draw tonight is a good result.
Pep Guardiola, in his programme notes, Gerry, ahead of the game, he says, although Leicester dropped points in their last game at home to Norwich, they've enjoyed a great season so far, and they are not second in the Premier League by accident. So there's no way that Pep Guardiola and Manchester City are going to take Leicester lightly today.
No, without a shot of a doubt. And he's spot on. That's the one thing about the league and playing in the league is you don't get there by fluke. And Leicester have been in great form this season under Brendan Rodgers. And I hope, and I'm sure, that they will be relishing coming here and taking on the big boys, the defending champions. You know, probably the richest club in the league, if not one of the richest clubs in the world. And let old Leicester swing into town again and go, right, let's go and have a good old ding-dong.
We've seen a lot of classics here, of course, between these two sides, not least in 2016, of course. But you look back at the game last season, and barring that absolute wonder strike from Vincent Kompany, Leicester probably would have come away with a result that evening as well.
Yeah, that's right. You know, and it took a wonder strike, and it may well take the same this evening. You know, to win this game from either side, it may have to be an absolute wonder strike, because, as you say, Leicester's defence look really solid. And on the other hand, Leicester are in form. We've seen some of those passing phases coming together again on Wednesday night. Some good goals we've seen, some good goals, team goals should I say, we've seen this season. It's a great playing surface. It's a great arena, you know, to play football in. So, you know, I just hope the game lives up to its expectations.
Well, that's the thing. Sometimes with games like this, when they've had so much expectation, so much riding on them, so many people expecting them to be a classic, sometimes they can be a bit of a damp squid or a dull affair. But I just, for some reason, don't get that feeling this evening. You really, really get the sense this is going to be a classic game of football.
You do, and the reason for that is that both teams like the attack. Both teams play a brand of football that's easy on the eye, it's exciting to watch, and it creates goal-scoring opportunities. And so hopefully when you put those two elements together, or those two teams' elements together, then you're hoping that it's going to be an exciting game of football with lots of chances and lots of goals.
Leicester, of course, come into the game full of confidence, despite the fact we just, as Pep Guardiola underlined there, they drew at home to Norwich last weekend in the Cup on Wednesday. It was a fantastic evening on Merseyside.
Quarter-final time once again for Leicester City. Welcome to a packed-out Goodison Park for the last eighth of the League Cup. As Ricardo has it in the right wing position now. And he fires it into James Maddison outside of the right boot. Majestic! James Maddison with another very, very special strike in Leicester City colours. And the Foxes strike first in this League Cup quarter-final. 1-0. Corner kick, having just scored the opener. Here is Maddison looking to turn provider. It's flicked on and in! It's Johnny Evans! Leicester City have two in double quick time, and as things stand, they're heading into the semi-final of a major cup competition for the first time in 20 years. 2-0. Seamus Coleman rampages forward. It's a very good run. The cross in towards Tom Davis. He and Moise Kean were right next to each other. The ball drops to Coleman's feet. Back to Richarlison, who crosses into Tom Davis, who scores with a volley from the penalty spot. And Everton do have one back. And this League Cup quarter-final has taken a turn here. 4 added minutes. Leicester are 4 minutes away from the semi-finals of the League Cup. It's helped out from Cenk Tosun to Leighton Baines on his left foot, 25 yards out. Oh, he's hit it into the top corner. Would you believe it? Leighton Baines with an absolute cracker. And it's 2-2. And Leicester might just be heading to penalties again. Well, Leicester City's League Cup campaign this season started with a penalty shootout win away at Newcastle United. Can they now book their place in the semi-finals from the spot? Maddison with the first of the penalty kicks. Here he comes, short stutter, saved by Pickford. Oh, brilliant save to his right-hand side from Pickford. Early advantage for Everton in the shootout. And 0-0 in the shootout. Kasper Schmeichel makes himself big. Tosun misses, went the same way. Schmeichel saves. 0-0 after 2. Chilwell is ready. Here he comes, left-footed, scores. Sends Pickford the wrong way. And Leicester are the first team to score in this shootout. Schmeichel tries to pick off Baines. Here it comes from Leighton Baines. Saved by Kasper Schmeichel. Gets the right way. Kasper Schmeichel. He's becoming Leicester's hero. Leicester's right back, and he scores. Sends Pickford the wrong way. Holgate steps up and blasts it down the middle. Big penalty. 2-1. Here goes Gray. Right-footed, scores. Very good penalty because Pickford went left. Very short run-up from Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and he scores. Just about. Jamie Vardy, here he comes. Right-footed, scores! And Leicester City march on in the League Cup and into the semi-finals.
Your place for all the big moments. You're listening to Matchday Live on LCFC Radio.
Yeah, fantastic evening at Everton, Gerry. It could have been a bit more straightforward, particularly at half-time when we went in 2-0 up. We thought, oh, well, it's tied, done and dusted. But Everton obviously fought well, got back into it. But on penalties, the character that Leicester City showed to concede so late in the manner that they conceded so late, but to then step up in the penalty shootout and really convincingly win in the penalty shootout was quite brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, when looking back on that game, as you say, Leicester in complete control, then get themselves on the back foot by letting Everton back in. They didn't take their chances to go further ahead, which they did have. And you're always going to have to compensate for Everton coming back into the game. Brendan made the changes. Again, didn't quite work out. Probably the first time the changes haven't worked out for Brendan with the late goals. But you got to say, 2 really good goals. And Everton aren't going to score 2 goals like that in every game of football they play. So you think everybody in the ground thought that Everton were going to win the penalty shootout. But the character the players showed going into that penalty shootout for such a young, and you look at the average age of the lads that took the penalties as well, with the pressure that was on them, quite incredible. And obviously it was Jamie Vardy who took the last penalty. Probably the most experienced player in the team, along with Johnny Evans and Kasper. But the lads who stepped up, took the penalties, and you look at Damari Gray's penalty, probably the best penalty of the night as well, for someone who hasn't had a lot of minutes on the pitch. So, you got full credit to the players that took them.
What will that win and the nature of that win do for the confidence heading into this game tonight?
Oh, it'll be massive, because the elation of getting through that tie and into the semi-finals will far outweigh the disappointment of letting Everton back into the game and drawing the match 2-2. That's what they will remember at the end of that game, is the elation of getting themselves into a semi-final of a cup competition. And they will bring that elation into today's game. So I think, even though it's not a way you want to finish a game of football, but if you're the winners, then the elation is fantastic.
A lot of people in the comments on our social media streams for Facebook and Twitter after seeing the team are very happy, Gerry, and do you agree with them? Do you go along with them? Are you pleased with the 11 that Brendan Rodgers has put out here at the Etihad today? Yeah,
again, there's no real surprises. It's probably the 11 you would probably say is his favourite 11, or has been his favourite 11 this season. And with Damari Gray on the bench, Iheanacho on the bench, Pratt on the bench, Albrighton on the bench, then you've got proven players who come off the bench and contribute to the team. So I think obviously that's in Brendan's thoughts, is in the latter stages of the game he's going to have to use a substitute, and he's got the firepower on the bench to come on and make an impact.
And we've seen this season Manchester City defensively, they haven't been as sound as they have been over previous seasons. We'll hear from BBC football reporter Simon Stone a little bit later, who watches Man City week in, week out, and he says that defensively they've looked really poor at times, and teams who have got pace on the break can cause them trouble. And Leicester City and Jamie Vardy and Harvey Barnes and James Maddison, Jose Perez breaking on the counter-attack. You're salivating thinking about it, aren't you, Gerry, from a Leicester point of view, because you think they really can get at that Man City backline.
Yeah, they've had their issues this season, haven't they? Otamendi is obviously playing today. Looks like alongside Fernandinho. So again, not a lot of pace in that backline, and that is something Jamie Vardy absolutely laps up. So again, the tactics are simple. Jamie Vardy knows what he's doing at the top of that pitch. He knows how to find space in behind. He knows how to, get on the end of the ball. So it's all about making sure when you're in a good area like the edge of the attacking third or the middle third of the pitch, there's only one man you're looking for, and let him do the business.
And that has struck worry into a lot of Manchester City fans, a lot that we've spoken to today, and you get the sense around here there isn't the normal level of excitement that Man City fans come to a game almost expecting to win every single game, don't they? And usually steamroller teams here at the Etihad. But I think there's a bit of a different feel among the home fans here today because they know what Leicester are capable of doing.
Yeah, I've been talking to Manchester City fans outside the ground before I came in this evening, and they think Leicester are going to do a number on them this evening. They really do. So that just shows you that the fans themselves have doubts about the team this season under Pep. We've talked about the issues that they've had. They're missing a couple of defenders, admittedly. But you cannot concern yourself about that if you're Leicester City. Now is your time to play them. Yes. Well, you've got to remember as well that Man City went away to Arsenal, and that was a convincing win away at Arsenal 3-0. So that's a great result for them. But you have to say, they do have frailties. It's down to Brendan and his coaching staff to pinpoint those frailties to the players, and then it's up to the players to go out, remember what they've been told, and try and reenact what they do on the training pitch.
I guess from a Man City point of view, then that's where they look, isn't it? That Arsenal game, they forget what's happened before that and say they were scintillating and brilliant at the Emirates, and they'll be hoping to do the same today.
This is what makes his game so intriguing. We know that Manchester City have issues, but in saying that, they come into this game off the back of a really good win. So their confidence will be high. Yes, they'll be worthy. They'll know what Leicester are capable of. But they've got themselves back to winning ways and in decent form. So it's got all the makings of a great game. Leicester come into the game, as we know, with good confidence and in good form. So it's all there in front of us, isn't it? We just have to get the waiting and the talking over with, and let's just get on with the game.
And in front of us, Gerry, is arguably one of the nicest grounds in the Premier League, isn't it? It looks absolutely fantastic here inside the Etihad. For a bit of context of where we're sat, we're about halfway through one of the halves and not that far up, Gerry. It's the perfect vantage point almost where we're sat.
Oh no, it's a great stadium. It's a modern stadium, as well known. But where we're sat, we've a great view. Yes, there's a big stand on top of us, but we can see enough of the pitch to make sure that the views here are very, very good, and it's just a great place in general. To come and watch a game of football. It's a spacious stadium, isn't it? Our seats here in the media box are fantastic. I'm just sprawling out here, leaning back. I've got a swivel chair, moving from side to side. I couldn't ask for anything more.
Just in front of us, around about 30-40 yards away, Edison is being warmed up by the Manchester City goalkeeping staff. Away to the far side, the right-hand side, Kasper Schmeichel is defending, crosses into the box as one comes in, and he just takes a catch there comfortably and kicks it back out to where it came from. He's also been speaking ahead of this game and reacting to that win at Everton on Wednesday night.
Yeah, it was a frustrating night. We should never let the game get to that point. I think we had chances enough to close the game. We needed the third goal to kill it. We always knew if they were going to get one goal, they'd get the crowd back on side, and it'd become a tough game for us. And it turned out to be that way. But it was just a case of regrouping, and luckily, lads stuck their penalties away when it mattered.
It shows you an idea of the mindset, Gerry, of Leicester City. The first thing that Kasper Schmeichel spoke about there when asked about getting through to the first semi-finals since the year 2000 was you actually know they were disappointed and frustrated on the night, that they didn't just win the game comfortably, as we were talking about. They maybe should have done.
Yeah, absolutely. And you would say that as a defender, stroke keeper, because they were in control, and you always knew he's absolutely spot on. Whoever scored the next goal after half time, it was either going to kill the game or it was either going to get the opposition back on side. That's why I always say winning a game 2-0 at half time is probably the worst scoreline when you're winning a game of football, because you think that psychologically 2-0, game's over.
But they get one and they're
But then the opposition manager, he's saying, get one goal, you're back in it. Pressure's on them. And that's exactly how it turned out. Leicester didn't take the chances they had to kill the game off at 3-0. And Everton got that goal back that they craved and got themselves back into the game. And he's right, that's Casper. He's a perfectionist, isn't he? He wants to win everything all the time. And when he doesn't mind coming out and saying things like he's frustrated or it was a frustrating night, because it was, but it was, for us sat in the stand, it was very, very exciting.
And it was the character as well that we've already spoken about, because everyone expected Everton to win that penalty shootout. The atmosphere at full time throughout the game, you could argue it wasn't as good as what you maybe thought it would be on the evening, but at full time was something else, wasn't it?
Oh, it was raucous, and that's what the Everton fans can give you. That's what they want to see. That's like any club, like most clubs, they want to see a bit of endeavour, a bit of hunger, a bit of desire. And, Everton showed that. They didn't show it in the first half. They changed their tactics slightly in the second half. And it paid off for them. Albeit, as I said, with 2 wonder strikes. Well, one very good strike and one wonder strike, which, on another day would have went wider over the bar or into Casper's hands. But on that particular night, it went in the top corner.
When you concede goals like that, like the one that we saw Vincent Kompany strike here at the end of last season, in the dressing room, do you almost say to each other, well, we played well, Tom Davies has scored a really good volley and Leighton Baines has done that. You can't be too annoyed at each other or the defence, because I guess with those types of goals sometimes you just need to put your hands up and say there's nothing that anyone could have done about that.
No, I think as a manager you can always look at reasons why, and it's the lead up to the goals. And so you take nothing away from the strikes from Davies and Baines, but it's the lead up. What happened? Why was Leighton Baines given so much time? He brought the ball forward 2 or 3 touches, 10 yards, let's say. He brought it forward before he hit the ball. Why wasn't there somebody in his face quicker? Similarly to Tom Davies's strike, why was he left on his own on the edge of the box? Why didn't somebody come out and confront him? Why was the ball able to go into the box, a little bit too easily? So there are the things you look at as a manager and explain to your players. Yes, they're good strikes, but they could have been stopped from doing that. But again, you're nitpicking. It was the pressure of the evening. Leicester were on the back foot, and sometimes when you're on the back foot mentally, you don't sort of compute and go through the phases like you should do.
The Leicester City players have just come out from the tunnel area here at the Etihad. They're heading over to the far side to do their warm-ups. There's a few Leicester fans already spread across 3 tiers away to our right-hand side, clapping the Leicester City players on, who have just joined Kasper Schmeichel now, who's been out around about 20 minutes before. And I'm sure you'll hear a little bit more noise now as the Manchester City players come out for their warm-ups here at the Etihad Stadium. But it's the other end of the pitch that we're interested in, and the Leicester City side, and Kasper Schmeichel has been assessing the run of fixtures Leicester have over the festive period.
Every single game now is important. Making sure that we're in the mix all the way through, putting pressure on the teams around us. That's so important. And obviously we've got 2 games coming up against 2 of our closest rivals, which we need to win.
How proud are you of your own form this season? I mean, it's part of a rock-solid defence, and you look like you're really enjoying your football.
Yeah, I've long wanted to play in a team. I've done it a little bit for Denmark, a team that plays out from the back, and I can show that type of football that I can play. And I think a lot of the times here we've been a team that's looked to go a lot longer than we are at the moment. And I think we're all reaping the rewards of trying to control games a lot more than we used to, and it's been really good.
Kasper Schmeichel there speaking ahead of this clash at the Etihad this evening in the Premier League. The full-time whistles before we start talking about Kasper Schmeichel and what he was speaking about defensively there are starting to go across the Premier League at the moment. We'll just have a quick look. It's gone at St James's Park. Newcastle 1, Palace 0. Aston Villa have been beating at home again. Villa 1, Southampton 3. Brighton 0, Sheffield United 1. Fantastic result for the Blades yet again on the road. Bournemouth 0, Burnley 1, and Norwich 1, Wolves 2 as well. Wolves coming from behind to win there. And in the early kickoff, it finished Everton 0, Arsenal 0. Gerry, Kasper Schmeichel there was speaking about his form personally and the team's form, particularly defensively this season, because all you need to do is just look at the table and look at the goals conceded column for Leicester City. 3 better than anyone else in the league, 14 better than Chelsea, who are 2 places away in 4th place, 8 better than Manchester City, who are just behind them in 3rd. It has been an unbelievable turnaround, hasn't it, defensively for Leicester City?
Yeah, quite incredible. And I don't think anybody sat here or sat in that dressing room, would have believed that after 17 games, you've only conceded 11 goals. That's obviously less than a goal a game. 0 point, whatever. I'm not going to do the maths right now. So that's quite incredible. And that is what, obviously, we all go on about the goal-scoring exploits of Vardy, Maddison, Tielemans and the like. But you've got to say, defensively, Kasper and the rest of that back four have been quite immense. And obviously, with the introduction of, Soyuncu as well, he's just fitted right in, got on with the job, and he's reaping the rewards.
Kasper also spoke there about the festive period coming up, Gerry. Obviously, we're well and truly in amongst that now. Both these sides played on Wednesday evening, of course, in the Cup. A little bit of a different game for Manchester City. They beat Oxford 3-1 to secure their passage into the semi-finals as well of the League Cup. Obviously, Leicester played as well. So, in terms of legs, both teams will be relatively similar, Gerry, in the fatigue stakes.
Yeah, I think,
Man City obviously rested quite a few players as well in that win at Oxford.
Exactly. So, you've got to say that Manchester City are probably a bit more well rested than Leicester. Obviously, as you said, they had a few more changes than Leicester did on Wednesday night, and rightly so. As regards to Leicester playing a fellow Premier League opposition. But I don't think when you get to this stage of the season, the emphasis isn't as hard on the training. No, it isn't as much on the training. It's about just going through the phases, going through certain scenarios, and sometimes you do that at a walking pace or a jogging pace. You don't do it full pelt. There may have been one session on Friday where they did maybe 10-15 minutes at an aggressive pace, let's say. But other than that, they'll have been as rested as much as possible for tonight's game.
And there'll be no eyes, will there, on that Boxing Day game this evening? It's difficult, you say that from my point of view. Obviously, never played the game myself, Gerry, and fans will think, oh no, the players will be fully focused on this game. They won't be worried about the Boxing Day game. But you've played the game, you've been involved in big games back to back. Is there any part of you that thinks a little bit ahead to that next game when you're actually playing?
You know what the fixtures are. So in general chit chat, you'll talk about the games coming up. Well, we've got Man City and then Liverpool. But as far as,
once you're out on that pitch.
Yeah, as far as, dissecting the opposition, then Liverpool won't even come into the equation. It's as simple as that. And, the longer you stay in the game, the longer you play, the easier it is for you to, get your mindset on the opposition. And again, that's all down to the manager and the staff. It's important for them to make sure the players are focusing in on the immediate game on hand. And then come, tomorrow or Monday, I'd probably say Monday, then they'll start focusing on Liverpool. It's as simple as that. So everyone's well aware of what's in front of them. And it's Man City here at the Etihad. It's as simple as that. Liverpool, they might be watching out for the Liverpool results, on the run-up to them playing them, but that'll be it. Nothing more than that.
Just finally, we know that those Leicester fans over to the right-hand side have been spoilt in recent years, Gerry, and it's happening again, isn't it, this season? Unbelievable form that's been shown by Brendan Rodgers' side. They had one very, very special afternoon here, of course, at the Etihad. What will they do for another win today?
Well, it was a special afternoon, wasn't it? And if they could somehow recreate that and pull it off, then, I think even the Man City fans would go home happy, never mind the Leicester fans, because I think what's important to Manchester fans is that Liverpool don't win the league, and that's why I say that. So yeah, even though the Man City fans want their team to win, I don't think they'll be too disappointed if Leicester win, because it means that they're getting closer to Liverpool.
Well, let's get a reminder then of the 11 Leicester City players hoping to beat Manchester City here at the Etihad with our commentator John Dunn.
And Brendan Rodgers has made 3 changes following the midweek win on penalties against Everton. Youri Tielemans and Kagawa Soyuncu restored to the starting 11 as we would expect. Wes Morgan and Dennis Pratt up to the bench. Harvey Barnes makes his first start since the win at home to Watford earlier this month. Mark Albrighton also dropping to the bench. Michael then in goal, former Manchester City goalkeeper. The back four, Ricardo, Soyuncu, Evans and Chilwell. And Didi sitting in front of Perez, Tielemans, Maddison and Barnes. Jamie Vardy leaving the Leicester line. And on the bench it's Ward, Justin, Morgan, Pratt, Albrighton, Gray and Iheanacho. 2 changes for Pep Guardiola's Manchester City following their last league game. That was last Sunday, a 3-0 win at Emirates Stadium. Rodri and Phil Foden are on the bench, replaced by Bernardo Silva and former Leicester City favourite Riyad Mahrez. Sergio Aguero back fit and on the bench this evening. Ederson is the goalkeeper. A back four, Walker, Otamendi, Fernandinho and Mendy. The midfield of De Bruyne, Gundogan and Bernardo Silva. Up front, Mahrez, Jesus and Sterling. Their substitutes are Bravo, Zinchenko, Garcia, Cancelo, Rodri, Foden and Aguero.
Thank you very much, John. Just looking down, Emerick Laporte is stood on the sideline. He's just put his hood up over his cap, watching the Manchester City warm-ups. How much these fans and Pep Guardiola would wish he was fit and ready for this game, but he isn't, and that's been a bit of an issue that Manchester City have had so far this season, which is something that Simon Stone from the BBC has underlined. We'll hear from him in a little bit. We'll also hear from Pep Guardiola and Brendan Rodgers here on Matchday Live.
You're listening to LCFC Radio.
The Lib Dems claim the sale of a British defence firm to American investors is deeply concerning and could undermine national security. Cobham has been sold for £4 billion. The government approved the deal late last night after months of scrutiny. Prime Minister Boris Johnson says he's comfortable with the takeover.
I think it's very important that we should have an open and dynamic market economy. A lot of checks have been gone through to make sure that in that particular case all the security issues that might be raised can be satisfied.
Record temperatures and high winds are hampering efforts to bring bushfires under control in Australia. 100 separate blazes are raging across parts of New South Wales, Victoria and South Australia. 2 police officers have been assaulted as they try to break up a fight outside a pub in Greater Manchester in the early hours. A male officer was knocked unconscious while his female colleague was dragged to the ground and stamped on in Middleton. The Duke of Edinburgh has spent the night in hospital in London. He was admitted yesterday as a precautionary measure related to a pre-existing condition. That's the latest. I'm Tanya Snuggs.
The only place you can listen to every Leicester City match online. This is LCFC Radio.
The Etihad Stadium steadily starting to fill up, anticipation building here for Manchester City against Leicester City. Gerry, just in front of us watching Ederson be warmed up. He's been thrown some balls and then he's booting them downfield, and every single one he's literally put into the hands, apart from that one that I've just said there where he had to step back a couple of yards, but pretty much everyone has been bang on at his fellow goalkeeper, which is ridiculous.
He's not bad, is he? He's got a chance at that. He's my favourite keeper to watch because he's got the lot. You know, he is the quintessential modern day goalkeeper. You know, he can play, he can keep goal. His technique is phenomenal for a goalkeeper. And that's besides Kasper Schmeichel as well. He's also very, very good as well. Well, world class Kasper. But this guy is just on a different level, isn't he? He's just ridiculous.
He's been an awful lot more busy than he would have hoped to have been this season as well, isn't he, Gerry? Because of Manchester City's defence, a lot's been made of it. He wasn't as busy, certainly, in his time so far here at the Etihad, but he's had a lot of work to do because of what's happened in front of him.
Yeah, that's right. And sometimes as a keeper, admittedly, you want a quiet night at the office. Other keepers, they thrive on being busy and making saves. But you have to say, compared to last season, then he's bent his back a few more times than he would like. They picked the ball out of the net. But he's still a class act, you have to say. And I just love watching him.
Well, as we've talked about, the defence in front of him has been a little bit of an issue for the Citizens this season. And Simon Stone, the football reporter at the BBC, says that the Man City defence will have to be at the very top of their game today.
It's only a couple of weeks ago that Manchester United played here, City played right into United's hands in a way by dominating possession, pushing on, and that left spaces behind, and the pace in United's attack allowed them to repeatedly create chance after chance after chance. And I think the fear for Manchester City is that Leicester are capable of doing something very, very similar, and that is the problem that they have. City is once they push forward, then the gaps they leave behind for people like Vardy and Maddison to run into, and that could cause them a problem. Well, the thing is that Pep won't compromise, so he won't change his tactics to deal with Jamie Vardy. He will expect the Manchester City defence to deal with Jamie Vardy, and clearly City's defence has been a weak link this season because Aymeric Laporte has been out basically all season, and that's created an issue, and that's why Fernandinho's had to play at centre-half. Fernandinho's not centre-half, even though Pep keeps saying he is. He's not a centre-half, otherwise he would have played there all his career, but he can play with the ball, which is something that between them John Stones and Nicolas Otamendi have not really done. So it'll be interesting to see how City defend against Vardy, but they won't compromise their tactics in order to try and neutralise him.
Hi Leicester fans, it's Ricardo Pereira.
It's Kasper Schmeichel here.
I'm Jamie Vardy. You're listening to Matchday Live on LCFC Radio.
Welcome back to Matchday Live here on LCFC Radio with me, Dan Bates. Gerry Taggart sat alongside me. That was the voice of Simon Stone from the BBC in a very loud and busy media corridor here at the Etihad Stadium, Joey. But one thing that to pick up on from that is in talking about the defence. He says that Pep Guardiola won't compromise. He's not the type of manager to compromise like that and to think sometimes you should change. If you've got a player like Jamie Vardy, do you try and change tactically, do something a little bit different at the back? But he believes in his methods and what he wants to do with the team, so he sticks to his guns.
Yeah, absolutely. And who am I to say or to go against that? It's worked for him pretty much in the main. Yes, he's had a couple of slip-ups this season, but you have to say it's mainly down to injuries, not down to his tactical play. Pep Guardiola knows how to win a game of football. He knows how to win multiple games of football, stroke trophies. So he concentrates on how he wants to play, and if he doesn't like what he sees, then he changes it from the sideline as regards the tactical input coming onto the pitch, or he changes the playing staff. It's as simple as that. And when you're not successful as a manager, I don't really see the need, because you're never going to win every game of football anyway as a manager, and more often than that it's because of the way teams come and set up against you, especially at home and even away from home. Teams that are playing at home set up in a defensive manner, which obviously makes it a little bit more difficult to try and break down. That's not to say that Pep Guardiola has to then go and change his tactics, because invariably for every game, or the vast majority of games that Man City play, and they control the possession, and that is number one, especially on European managers' hit list, is we need to control the ball for the majority of the game, and if we do, we give ourselves a better chance of winning it. And that is the mindset and the philosophy of Pep Guardiola. So I don't see why he should.
Well, let's concentrate on, we're talking about maybe the weaknesses of Manchester City. Let's talk about the strengths for just a moment, Gerry. Thankfully for Leicester, well, I say thankfully because he's been out injured for a couple of months, but thankfully Sergio Aguero is only on the bench for Manchester City today. But that front line, talk about how good Leicester's front five is. Listen to this for Manchester City. Gabriel Jesus, Raheem Sterling, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Riyad Mahrez. That incredible front five for Manchester City, and the OB right now is focused solely on the Leicester City defence, way over on the far right hand side from where we are. Soyuncu's just jumped up and headed one away in their warm-up. What a big task those four have ahead of them today.
Yeah, it's world class, isn't it, that attacking line, you have to say, on their day. And it's down to them boys at the back and the guys in midfield to make sure that they're not world class today, and it's going to be a difficult job to try and sort out, but you know, a job that they're well capable of pulling off. But you have to say, you know, De Bruyne is the one player that does scare me, because he's the one player that can create something out of complete another thin air and score a goal from anywhere in that final third in the central part of the pitch. So he is obviously the one player that, for me, that if I was a Leicester City manager, he would scare me. We know what Jesus is all about. We know what Sterling is all about. Stopping him's a different matter. He's very clever, Sterling, but he has what he hasn't got that De Bruyne has got is that creativity in tight areas or in tight spaces. So he's the one player that really does, as a Leicester City fan, scare me.
How good is he to watch, Kevin De Bruyne?
He's world class. He's just world class.
Those goals against Arsenal and his performance against Arsenal.
What, you know, it's hard to explain. He was born to play football. Let's put it that way. He was born to be a top footballer. He wasn't born to be a swimmer or a shot putter or a rugby player or a cyclist. This guy was born to play football. It's as simple as that.
And we talked about those Arsenal goals. Weird thing, I think that was one of his only Premier League brace. I think Kevin De Bruyne in his time. John's nodded his head, so I think that's enough of a thumbs up I need. But his only Premier League brace, which is a bit of a surprise, Gerry, because he's more of a creator, isn't he, than a scorer. But he can add goals and come up with massive goals, and invariably when he scores, they're usually very, very, very good.
Listen, he made a pass here 2 years ago, and I couldn't quite believe what I was seeing. And I've seen just about everything in football. Yet he pulls his pass off to the back post and Aguero bobs it in. And you're just thinking, wow, that is... Only a world-class player could see that. Not only see it, but then go and pull it off. So his creativity is obviously his main asset. But we've also seen at the King Power Stadium where he rifled in a 20-yarder, 25-yarder with his left foot, that he can create, score, and, you know, turn a game on its head with just one moment of brilliance. And that's the unknown that as an opposition manager you cannot coach against. It's impossible. Sometimes you have to just sit up and go, well, that was world class. There's nothing I can do about that.
Well, the man who is very thankful he is in his side is, of course, Pep Guardiola, and he's been speaking ahead of the game, but he's actually been speaking about Leicester's season so far under Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, they did really well last season when he took over the team, and this season as well, and yeah, they were so consistent this part of the season. It's an excellent team.
And just in terms of your team, when you look at the league table and you are a long way behind Liverpool, but you're quite a long way in front of the fifth place team, how do you motivate your side? Because at the moment you just seem to be a little bit marooned in the middle of the top four.
There's a lot of games to play, so the distance that we have now, the teams in front or behind, can change in a few weeks, and especially in this period. So you start to approach the game tomorrow the best as possible and do what you have to do.
he's obviously very, very complimentary, isn't he, Pep Guardiola, Gerry, about Brendan Rodgers and about Leicester City. He saw exactly what Brendan Rodgers' Leicester City is all about here at the end of last season.
Yeah, I think, Pep Guardiola is one of those managers, when he sees other managers playing good football and getting the results, then he understands that the hard work that takes. He has been critical of clubs in the past that come and sit back and defend and don't have a go, but he understands the way Brendan Rodgers tries to play the game, and so that's why you see him being very complimentary towards Brendan and the Leicester City team.
Do you think he wants teams to come here and play at them then? Firstly, from just an enjoying a game of football point of view, which I'm sure Pep Guardiola will want, but also his Man City team will find it a lot easier to pick off a team that maybe pile men forward.
I think he's intrigued and he gets more of a kick out of beating managers that come here and try and play him at his own game, and if they do beat him, then he's a person who's man enough to hold his hand up and say, I love that, well done, I love that. And then he goes away and thinks, how's he beating me? How come Leicester have beaten me? We've played the same kind of football. I've got supposedly better players. That's the kind of guy I think Pep Guardiola is. I think he respects other managers that come and try and play their style of football, a similar style of football to what he does, because I think he has this self-belief that the way he plays football is the only way to play football. It is the right and proper and correct way to play football. And he's got a point, let's be honest.
And you do get the sense Leicester will come and do exactly that this evening, judging from the starting 11s. But there's one player in there, Gerry, that's so important, that allows Leicester to play like that, and that is, of course, Wilfred Ndidi. So we've already spoken about the back four and how they'll have to be at the top of their game to manage all the attackers coming at them. But from a Wilfred Ndidi point of view, is his main role, do you think, today just sitting on Kevin De Bruyne, or is it not worrying man-to-man like that and just playing his role?
Well, again, these are all tactics that can be used by managers. But if I was Brendan Rodgers, would I change my tactics slightly for Man City? The answer is no. Now, I've got Brendan Rodgers, just like Pep Guardiola, has no reason to. His team are in good form, they're winning games, and if it's not broke, don't fix it. Now, what Brendan has been very, very good at this season is tactically and, changing the game when the game's going on. So you may well see something change tactically as the game goes on. But as far as the beginning of the game, it's not about, I suppose, I was going to say it's not about stop Man City, but it is about stop Man City. But Wilfred is already adept in doing that job. It's already a natural instinct for him to do that defensive midfield role. Brendan Rodgers doesn't have to cajole him or coach him or spend hour after hour after hour watching videos of how he should be playing. So that's a natural, he's got a natural defensive midfielder in that area of the pitch. He may tactically just give him a couple of extra little pointers, but as far as changing the whole dynamic of the team setup for one player, then I wouldn't do that.
12 minutes to go until kickoff here at the Etihad Stadium. The man that Gerry's just been talking about there, Brendan Rodgers, obviously has been speaking ahead of this game. Leicester have had a lot of big games already this season, but he was asked whether this is the biggest of the lot so far.
Every game is big. It's a game that we're really, really looking forward to. The last time we played Manchester City, it was a real iconic game, but no, for us, obviously we've developed since then, and but we respect we're playing against a really top class team that been the champions the last couple of seasons and play to a fantastic level. But it's a great opportunity for us to go and show that we are improving, and that it's a great game for a player to go and show and demonstrate the qualities in such a big game.
Again, you referenced that game here, Gerry, that 1-0. How much of a better team are Leicester now than what they were that evening?
Yeah, a lot better. And they were decent that night as well, let's be honest. And that form has carried on, hasn't it, into this season? So it's a more mature team. It's a more experienced team. They've got more strength and depth. So all round, you've got to say that this is definitely a better team than it was last year. Is Man City's team as good as that team that beat Leicester last year? Time will only tell, but the league would say not. Let's put it like that. Yes, there was a lot of pressure on Man City to win that game, with Liverpool breathing down their throats. And I suppose you could say there's a bit less pressure on Man City tonight because Liverpool are so far ahead. So, but it brings its different issues. Each game brings its different issues, but definitely I agree with what Brendan says. It's a great opportunity. You know, Leicester are a team in form. They've got no worries, got no fears coming here. Yes, there's the obvious players you need to keep an eye on, but other than that, go and play with your game. Go and be confident because you've proven this season that what you're doing on the pitch works.
And it's here though that Man City traditionally are so strong and blow teams away so much, but they have, Gerry, in the Premier League, lost here twice already this season. Wolves and then obviously their bitter rivals Manchester United. How much can Leicester take from those two games, and how many times has Brendan watched particularly the Manchester United one and the way that they were able to expose the Man City defence, particularly on the counter-attack?
I think, now watching Leicester over the last couple of, say, 5-6 weeks, we've seen a more counter-attacking style come in. Now, I'm not saying it was coming intentionally, but it's come in, and we've seen the result of that, goals being scored. So it's interesting. It's really interesting. You know, you're comparing two Leicester City teams, one of the champion winning season and this season. Two totally different teams as regards their style of football, but still two teams who were very, very successful in their own right. Now tonight, listening to the reporter that was on a few minutes ago, and he was saying that Man City played right into the hands of Manchester United and they hit them on the counter-attack. Now, is that a ploy? It's not a ploy that Brendan will employ, should I say, from the off. But organically, you could see that counter-attacking style of football come to the fore tonight, which Leicester, even though it's not a game they work on anymore, it's still in their DNA. It's still somewhere in the back of their minds that we know how to score goals by playing on the counter-attack.
And naturally there will be opportunities to counter-attack because of how much Man City have the ball.
Without a shadow of a doubt. And that's where players like Ndidi, Evans, Soinchu are massive. And then it's all about that quick transition. And we've seen it this season. We've seen it at Brighton with Iosi Perez's goal. That's the one that springs to mind. So we know it's there. We know it can happen. We've seen it. Even though the style of football is, you know, a complete sea change to what we've seen in 2016. It's still there. And that's massively important. And that's a massive tool for Brendan to have, you know, if he wants to use it.
And off the bench, of course, there's one name that has shown time and time again this season that off the bench he's capable of scaring defences and creating chances, changing games. That is, of course, Demarai Gray. He missed a few games, didn't he, through illness, but he's on the bench. He has been for the last couple of games, and he's looked bright whenever he has played. And how much of a key role then could he play if it's 1-1 or if it's 1-0 to Man City, whatever the score may be, with 20 minutes to go, bring on a player like Demarai Gray against a tiring defence that are already struggling this season defensively, mainly on the counter-attack. How important could that be?
Yeah, massively important, and that's why you have these players on the bench, because they're proven coming off the bench and making an impact. And Iheanacho's another one that in recent games has come off the bench and done really well. I think it was Arsenal, or was it Arsenal or Everton? One of the two. Watford. Come on, I'll get it right. Where he scored the winner. It was Everton, wasn't it? It was Everton.
Everton, yeah.
Everton. So
Everton. You've
got two players who can create and score coming off the bench. Again, massive for Brendan if and when he needs to bring them on.
Well, the teams are in the tunnel. Kasper Schmeichel leading, of course, Leicester City out. Gerry Tielemans doing his usual pre-match routine, which is to go from front to back in the Leicester City line, wishing them all good luck. And the Man City players now just joining them in the tunnel as we speak. Fernandinho ready to lead out the home side here. A reminder, if you're listening in on social media, those feeds will stop just before kickoff, so you'll have to head to lcfc.com to listen to full match commentary of the huge game here this evening between Manchester City and Leicester City. And to take us through it, we've got Gerry Taggart and John Dunn.
Maddison! Oh, that is absolutely brilliant! And it's a beauty! Jamie Vardy again for Leicester City. He's up and running. What a fantastic goal!
Touch, back of the net.
Come on! What a delightful goal that is from Jamie Vardy!
All the games, all the goals, and all the big moments. You're listening to LCFC Radio.
The festive football fixtures are underway, and the Foxes have pulled a couple of Christmas crackers to start the busy period of holiday games. Two games as big and as mouth-watering as the traditional Christmas dinner. Boxing Day sees a visit of Liverpool to King Power Stadium, but for starters it's a trip to Manchester to take on the Premier League champions. The Blue Army have travelled in large numbers, hoping an early present can be delivered by the Leicester City players before they head back to the East Midlands. For the second season in succession, the Foxes arrive at Etihad Stadium looking to disrupt where the Premier League title will head. Last season, Brendan Rodgers' men were the also-rans, looking to cause an upset before the Vincent Company unleashed a rocket. A few months on, and Leicester City sit in between Liverpool and Manchester City at the top of the tree. The Foxes have more wins and a better goal difference than this evening's hosts, and they know successive wins before the end of the year would create a real stir at the top of the Premier League table. Manchester City were in League Cup action in the week, as were the Foxes. Pep Guardiola made a host of changes, and it is two changes from their last Premier League outing. That was last Sunday, a 3-0 win at Emirates Stadium against Arsenal. Rodri and Phil Foden dropped to the bench. Bernardo Silva has been a sub for the last 3 games. He starts, as did Riyad Mahrez, his first start for nearly a month. Sergio Aguero has been out for the last 5 weeks. He returns to the City lineup. He's a substitute this evening. Ederson in goal, back four, Walker, Otamendi, Fernandinho and Mendy. In midfield, it's De Bruyne, Gundogan and Silva. Up front, it's Mahrez, Jesus and Sterling. Brendan Rodgers made 3 changes to the Leicester side from the last league game in the week against Everton at Goodison Park. He makes 3 changes from that lineup for this evening's clash. There's a return to the starting 11 for Kyle Soyuncu and Yuri Tillemans, Premier League ever-presence. They replace Wes Morgan and Dennis Pratt. Harvey Barnes also in for the first time since the start of the month. He replaces Mark Albrighton. Schmeichel in goal, former Manchester City goalkeeper. And the back four, Ricardo, Soyuncu, Evans and birthday boy Ben Chilwell. And Didi in front of Perez, Tillemans, Maddison and Barnes. Jamie Vardy, the Premier League's leading goal scorer, up front for the Foxes. The Northwest hasn't been particularly kind to the Foxes this season. Their only 2 defeats have come in this region at Anfield and at Old Trafford. The Foxes haven't won in the city of Manchester since the iconic 3-1 win here in February 2016. And we know what happened after that victory. Both teams lining up ahead of kickoff, both going into mini huddles at either side of the ground. Former Leicester and Manchester City defender Gerry Taggart alongside us. Gerry, if I'd have said to you back in July, in August, by the time we get towards the end of the year, Leicester would have more points, a better goal difference, less defeats than Manchester City, I think you'd be checking what I was drinking.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. You know, it's quite a remarkable turnaround, you have to say, under Brendan Rodgers. And the players, you feel, and when you watch them, you have to say the players absolutely love playing for him. They play a style of football that suits each and every one of them. Again, testament to the manager, and the results and the performances this season, you know, have matched the ambition of the manager, and that is why you see those stats that you've just read out, John.
Kickoff, fast approaching. The Manchester City supporters, buoyed by the PA, blasting out Blue Moon. Last game for the home supporters before the Christmas break. Leicester City all in dark grey this evening as we look from the back of the lower tier in the main stand The Foxes will kick from right to left. Manchester City in sky blue shirts, white shorts and white socks will kick from left to right towards the Leicester City